Este es su programa Café con Leche, la voz de los latinos en América. Estamos transmitiendo desde hermosa 1470 AM, 96.9 FM. Michael and I, we are having a conversation about the very difficult task of learning English. If you only go to school 1 hour per week or 3 hours per week, it's very, very difficult. What would you
Or learning
recommend?
Spanish if you're not going to school.
Oh, that it has to be worse, eh?
Yeah.
Well, no, but you know, people who came from another country were supposed to have the responsibility to learn to the new country in which you go.
Right.
But do you know the way in which we have the schools to learn English is not very effective because you know what happened? We stay there for 2, 3 months, and then we see that we don't advance anything, and then we quit. And then we go out, and then we recognize again that we need to speak English, and then we go again to the process, and it's so expensive for everybody.
Yeah.
And you don't have any results, then we should look for another way. I would propose that giving us to new people who came to the new to the country 4 or 5 hours or 6 every day to learn English.
Yeah, and I can understand that, and I think it's a good approach and a good philosophy. But um, do people who are trying to learn a new language have 4 or 6 hours a day to do that? And that's where it becomes, difficult when you've got so much other stuff going on and cluttering your brain while you're trying to function. I spent a little bit of time in other countries. And when you're in another country and they're speaking the language and their language is the business language, then your focus is a little bit different. I learned speaking, a little bit, tiny little bit of Vietnamese, being a Vietnam vet. But while I was there were circumstances and situations where I had to learn some of the language just in order to function and to communicate and to sometimes protect myself or others by use of the language. So, it comes into play and situations present themselves where you have to learn some language. But, I didn't have, 4 or 5 hours a day to learn it. I had to have situations and circumstances that demanded that I know it, certain forms of it anyway. I wasn't very good at conversation anything other than English, um, but you learn, you pick up enough to survive, and that's the pressure of so many people needing to learn a foreign, another language, whether it be a language of a country that you immigrate into or not. Is you're so busy trying to quote unquote survive. There's not a lot of time to pick up language, and for those where it is, I applaud them. And for those where there isn't that kind of time, I empathize with them because I've been in situations where I wish that I had known more of another language. It's a constant effort all the time. And a lot of people do different things because learning language can be pleasant. And if I know a number of people who actually learn to speak English by watching soap operas
Mm-hmm.
or cartoons or other kinds of things where they're entertained, but they're infusing the language in their entertainment. That's is probably one of the better ways to approach it when you're getting something out of it at the same time you're learning the language.
Conversar las dificultades del aprendizaje del inglés. Estamos comentando cómo se le puede hacer para aprender inglés. Le comento que la mayoría de las personas pues nos sentimos frustradas porque vamos 1 o 2 o 3 veces a la semana a la escuela por 1 hora y eso es todo, y que le digo que así no es posible aprender un idioma y que necesitamos estructurar otra manera porque si no resulta muy costoso. Si vas por 3 meses a la escuela y te das cuenta que en realidad no aprendiste nada, dices, no, pues para qué voy, pero te sales y luego te dicen, no, pues tienes que aprender inglés, si no aquí no puedes estar trabajando. Entonces otra vez te regresas a la escuela. Y entonces es una tarea incansable, ¿no? De que empezamos, pero nunca terminamos y la dificultad, le digo, lo que pasa es que hay que cambiar la manera como que aprendemos, porque con 1 o 2 horas a la semana necesitamos estar 4 o 5 horas por día para poder aprender. Dice, sí, pero muy poca gente tiene la posibilidad de destinar tanto tiempo. Generalmente vienen a trabajar y entonces es muy difícil. Dice, yo, por ejemplo, tuve la oportunidad de ir a Vietnam y aprendí algunas cosas, pero aprendí las cosas que me interesaban, las básicas, ¿no? Dice, ahora yo conozco gente que se sienta en la televisión a ver las telenovelas o las caricaturas y que así aprenden inglés, pero de todos modos es una manera muy limitada. When I came to the United States, the first thing that I learned how to write was memorandums, specifically in the area in which I was working.
Yeah.
In fact, I was even proposing, but it was never accepted. I was working in the regional center in which you have to make evaluations of children.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling them, do you know, we spend all the time writing the informs instead of working with the children. I propose that we make a form in which we just have check marks that say yes, no, because usually are the same kind of problems for each child. And if there is something very important, then you put a little note on the bottom. My proposal was rejected. But then you learn something very, very specific, and I was unable to even to talk with anybody socially. Like, I don't know, how are you doing that?
Right.
I was so focused in that one.
Right.
And then every time that you change job, it's a big challenge. Because if I was working in mental health first, it's a specific vocabulary for that. Then you go to the regional center, you have to change. Then I went to the school transportation, I have to change. I went to the school, preschool, I have to change. But the thing is that I was learning only that piece of the pie, only that. But I was unable to have a social conversation with anybody.
Yeah,
So,
well, but look at you now. You're a radio announcer and you're speaking both Spanish and English. So, you've accomplished a lot through those experiences. And all of those, the sum total of those adding up is Lilia Galindo. So, radio personality.
well, but I think that I could be a lot better if I was able to speak. Because when you go to work with this limitation, people believe as soon as they listen to you talking, they put you down. Because I even have done that in my own country with people who didn't speak Spanish correctly. Like you even stop paying attention to wherever close the door. So
Yeah, well.
that is a reality. We're going to take a break and